This episode of Hero Movie Podcast is brought to you by Manscaped. For 20% off your order, enter the promo code HMP at manscaped.com. That's manscaped.com, promo code HMP for 20% off. And of course, listeners like you, go to patreon.com/HMP to help support this fine program that you're about to hear. That's patreon.com/HMP.
With this, I'm just gonna sit here laid back to this nice mellow beat, and drop some smooth lyrics. Cause it's 88, time to set it straight, you know what I'm saying? And there ain't no half stepping. Word, I'm ready. Rappers stepping to me, they wanna get some, but I'm the Kane, so yo, you know the outcome. Another victory, they can't get with me. So pick a BC date, cause you're history.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I am your host, Adam Portress, and I'm joined by Bruce Leslie, but unfortunately, he's not here right now. I don't know what happened with this episode, but I edited everything together, and for some reason, the beginning didn't come out. I don't know why. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I could try to explain it to you, but it won't work. But today, we're reviewing Solomon Kane from the early 2000s. We'll talk all about that when we get there. But first of all, I do want to say a big thank you to everyone who helped support this show over at patreon.com/HMP. There you get the pre-show, post-show, and of course the Dinger Zone. And this week, Bruce and I talk about what we're thankful for. I know that went up. So if you're listening to this, we appreciate it. We appreciate all of you guys. And just to let you know that we are now sponsored. We got a little sponsor coming up. Manscaped.com. For those of you out there that are a little bit on the hairier side, some of you look like Gritty from the Philadelphia Flyers there. Maybe you need to get yourself in shape and everything. Well, head on over to manscaped.com. Shop all you want. Whatever the items are that you see there, check them all out. Throw them in your basket. And when you get to the checkout, put in the promo code HMP. There you'll get 20% off and free shipping. This time of year, man, give the gift of a little bit of hygiene for you, you know? So we really appreciate that. We appreciate manscaped.com. They sent us some gear and stuff, and I got to say, it's pretty good. We're going to be talking about them for the next month, giving you all the kind of highlights and everything there. But we do appreciate them for helping support this show. And by you going and supporting them, you're helping support us at the exact same time. So if you can't do Patreon or you want to, whatever you want, just help this show out, send a letter, do whatever. Patreon.com/HMP, manscaped.com, use the promo code HMP, and we'll get into that a little bit more into detail next week. Again, I'm so sorry that I'm the only person here for this intro and everything, but we're going to play the trailer for Solomon Kane, and then we're going to get right back into it with me and Bruce. Sean is out this week, but Bruce and I got a pretty good episode for you. Unfortunately, the beginning is dead. I don't know. So we're going to re-upload this, and hopefully people don't complain too awful much. In my defense, I worked in the last 40 hours leading up to that thing. I had worked like 20 hours. So that's pretty tired. But enjoy the rest of Solomon Kane. Here's the trailer for Solomon Kane.
I was never more at home than I was in battle. I've done bad things. My soul is damned. Satan's creatures will take me should I stray from the path of peace. I have renounced violence.
Offer you a ride. The road ahead should not be traveled alone.
Solomon, the devil was here.
Who are they? Solomon, what are they?
His army makes slaves of the weak and soldiers of the strong.
Solomon! Help us!
Stop! If I kill you, I am bound for hell. It is a price I shall gladly pay.
Redeem your soul. Save our child.
It's your last chance. Where is the girl? There is evil walking this earth, and I will hunt hunted down and send it burning back to hell.
Every step you took, every pain you suffered, led you to here.
I am not yet ready for hell. Come on. There are many paths to redemption. Not all of them peaceful.
All right, everybody, that was the trailer for Solomon Kane. You know what time it is. Oh, come on, guy. That wasn't the loudest ever? Oh, my word. Hold on. Oh, I don't even know how to turn it down. Hello, Cleveland. My God.
It was very quiet to my ears.
So I'll tell you what. I don't know what it looks like on this thing, but I'm going Beethoven on you on this one. Holy smokes, Bruce! Go with you. You do the comic book connection. I'm gonna
wake you up in the morning.
I'm gonna tend to my tinnitus. Go ahead.
Well, to understand Solomon Kane, one must first understand life. And life is the essence that flows through so many things, something we instantly recognize, but have always struggled to define. And more importantly, what is life without meaning? For many years, Solomon Kane may have simply stumbled through life without finding meaning. But that all changed when he entered into the rich, meaningful culture of the Puritan. The Puritans were English Protestants in the 16th and 17th centuries who sought to purify the Church of England of Roman Catholic practices, maintaining that the Church of England had not been fully reformed and should become more Protestant, because in their opinion, one can never be too Protestant or too thin or wear too many hat buckles. Now, here in North America, we best know the Puritans for their pilgrimage on ships like the Mayflower to establish new lives free of the Anglican Church in New England, where they became known simply as pilgrims and carried guns that kind of look like trumpets and spent all their time hunting turkeys or something like that. But Puritans had a lot of challenges in Europe as well. And some of these potential challenges made their way into the mind of pulp writer Robert E. Howard, best known for creating Conan the Barbarian, but he was also creator of the Puritan Punisher Solomon Kane. Being a Puritan pure in his Puritan purpose, Solomon Kane took it upon himself to rid the world of evil in all its forms. But his mysterious motivations go beyond just simple philanthropy. Kane is driven to atone for his past misdeeds. Solomon Kane does see good and evil in simple terms. He looks upon all magic as being of devious origin and a phenomenon he has to fight by all means. This fight also allows him to quench his inner rage and unleash his berserker-like temper onto things he shall feel no regrets for exterminating. A prevailing theory for the inspiration of the character's name is his name reflects both aspects of his personality, Solomon standing for the biblical judge and Kane for the first assassin in the history of humanity. And this resulting character being a man endlessly looking for justice and using his extremely violent inner self to punish evil whenever he encounters it was a natural fit for comics when Bronze Age Marvel decided to feature him in their funny books, thanks in no small part, of course, to the recent success of Conan. Now, a description of the character is offered by Comic Vine. It says, Solomon is a 16th century Puritan, and as such, he believes mainly in discipline, order, and an almost ascetic life, all things that reflect on his long, pale face. There is, though, another side of his character that he doesn't like to remember but comes regularly handy through his various adventures. Solomon Kane is prone to rage and can enter a state of trance similar to the one experienced by Viking berserkers. This uncontrollable rage often allows him to defeat enemies supposedly stronger than he is, and even on one occasion to grasp upon a creature from the ethereal realm and shred it to pieces. Solomon possesses no superpowers, but he is a grandmaster swordsman and has strength and stamina far above that of the common pilgrim. His fanaticism makes him impervious to temptation and sometimes triggers his legendary rage. When in a state of rage, Solomon seems to be capable of relentlessly pounding and slicing on natural and supernatural creatures alike with an extreme efficiency, feeling virtually no pain until the fight is over. Kane's first comics appearance was in Marvel's Monsters Unleashed #1 in 1973, and he would go on to appear in Marvel Comics for another 20 years before going dormant for a while, then being reintroduced to the world via Dark Horse Comics, a major event that was first publicized on Dark Horse's MySpace page. Boy, I bet that MySpace page was something when they announced Solomon Kane. Now, the Dark Horse stories are readily available as trade paperbacks, though I don't believe he's featured in any current ongoing books. So if you want some vicious old world Puritan vigilante justice to keep your mind occupied while the other losers in your household are watching whatever passes for the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade in our COVID year, pick up some Solomon Kane and enjoy his adventures kicking evil in the nuts.
I like how you you say that like we're picking up a case of Coors at the gas station. Pick yourself up a cool case of Solomon Kane.
Oh, man, that would be a great name for a cheap beer.
Solomon Kane, it's good for what ails you. Yeah, that's a...
the picture of a Puritan right on the front.
Big giant Puritan. It's one of those that's in a... it's a cousin to Steel Reserve.
Yeah. You place it like conveniently close to the oatmeal aisle so people have to remember which one's the Quaker, which one's the Puritan.
You got your Puritan, my Quaker. Now, what was... Okay, outside... Okay, I'll ask it this way: was there anything outside of the Thanksgiving realm that made you pick this particular thing? Where did this come about? Like, did you know anything? I've never heard of this.
It all came about when you guys did Mr. Boogedy without me.
Yeah, that's true.
Because Mr. Boogedy was a pilgrim, and I missed one good Pilgrim episode. We probably should have. Well, that's perfect to like fuse Halloween and Thanksgiving at the same time. So I guess it was well placed. But y'all did Mr. Boogedy without me, so I picked Solomon Kane so I could get a little Pilgrim action myself.
Why not? Here's the IMDb plot line here for you. A ruthless mercenary renounces violence after learning his soul is bound for hell. When a young girl is kidnapped and her family is slain by a sorcerer's murderous cult, he is forced to fight and seek his redemption, slaying evil. This is directed by M.J. Bassett, or Bassett? Depends on how you
say Bassett, like Basset Hound.
Yeah.
He also wrote the screenplay.
Well, you would be you'd be shocked to know that is it looks like it's a lady, actually.
Well, I apologize.
That's all right.
Or maybe I should apologize. Maybe I don't know.
Well, according to the picture on the IMDb, looks an awful lot like a lady. I'll say that.
Okay, the name is Samuel?
No. Well, according to this, the director here is M.J. Bassett for the
okay,
or Mike. Oh, it's listed as Michael, but M.J. I don't know. Maybe
it's Michelle. Like is the director maybe French?
I'll look into all this. But yeah.
Anyway,
teenager in the UK. There you go.
Please tell us your preferred pronoun, and we will respectfully use it.
Listen, here's the thing. This is a movie that nobody's seen. What I was shocked about is that this movie cost $40 million.
This movie was 10 years in the making.
Whew.
And I thought $40 million sounded cheap compared to what we see. I think it looks better.
It looks, well, here's the thing. It's $40 million and every penny of it is on the screen. Because
and it's $40 million all spent in Eastern Europe too.
Oh yeah, so it probably is closer to 80 if you probably think about it that way. But like you look at this whole, that is one thing that this movie definitely has going for it, is that like the sets and everything they spent money on this movie. Now what you get out of it, we'll argue, of course, but it doesn't look like a cheap, sand and what's the old term?
Sword and sorcery?
Sword and sorcery, sword and sandal kind of thing. It's not quite like that. It's not that kind of cheapy junk that you would see back in the day, like Hercules versus the Moon Men or something like that. This has got some money behind it.
Yeah, talking purely from a special effects point of view, I don't know what the budget is for 2 episodes of Game of Thrones, but it's close to that, I think, especially that first season when the effects were pretty bad.
Yeah, and this is like 2009 money, so it's not too bad.
Yeah, and they bought the rights to this film. The filmmakers who produced this, they licensed the rights to this in 1997, and so wow. I guess I said 10 years, but it was in 2009 that it was released internationally, didn't get released in North America till 2012 because I guess they took so long to make it. There were like some legal issues where it took them 3 years to resolve those before they could even release it. And I think that's probably part of why it did so poorly in the U.S.
Yeah, it made, oh gosh, what was it? I saw it earlier. I totally forgot about it. But it
was less than 40 million.
Yeah, worldwide gross 19.6. So
yeah,
woo.
And it was the planned first entry in a trilogy.
Not so much. You got James Purefoy in this, who, like, besides his name being kind of perfect for the character.
Yeah, James the Puritan Purefoy.
He's fine, but like to me in this, he comes off as kind of a broken renegade, like Renegade meets Highlander.
Well, I'm glad you said that because Christopher Lambert was the original person to play Solomon Kane in 1997, but that fell through for whatever reason, and they picked up Purefoy. I like Purefoy in this role. I also liked him in Rome. He was in I think it was an HBO show, Rome.
Yeah.
He played Mark Anthony, and he's pretty good in that too.
I saw the first episode, and all I remember was that's a lot of nudity.
Yeah, that's what kept me around. I came for the history. I stayed for the chowder buckets.
Why not? I wrote a lot. I want to kind of go through a couple things here because I wrote a lot of notes, but I do want to say Max von Sydow was like in here for like 4 seconds, but it's like, what is he doing here? Same thing with Pete Postlethwaite, the late great.
Was this Pete Postlethwaite's last movie?
I think The Town was his last movie.
Okay. And like part of it is like because the release schedule's so weird on this one. It was released in 2009, but it's listed as a 2012 movie here a lot of times. So I don't know when The Town was released.
I own it, and I couldn't tell you. I should know that better, but I do not, unfortunately. But so outside of those, you don't really recognize a whole ton of faces and stuff in here, and that's because like I said, they put the money on screen.
Now, talking about not recognizing faces in here, Rory McCann is listed in the credits in this movie. Rory McCann is best known to most people, I would imagine, as the Hound from Game of Thrones. Pretty big character on Game of Thrones.
Oh.
I knew he was in this movie. I looked for him, and I still didn't see him. So, yeah, didn't recognize the face, even though it belonged to one I should have. But, of course, it looks like he's got a big scar on his forehead and stuff in Game of Thrones. So maybe I didn't recognize him without that scar.
Oh, and I wanted to say Jason Fleming's in this, but for some reason, like he's not listed in like the top couple of IMDb people. I don't know why.
Yeah, maybe he just has a small part or something. I don't know.
No. He's the big bad at the end.
Oh, weird that he doesn't get a credit
with all the like tattoo stuff on his face and everything.
Yeah.
Why is he not listed? I'm looking through all these credits. He's not in them.
fact, I think I saw somewhere where it said Malachi was uncredited, which is a weird not to credit the actor playing your main villain. And it's not like he's just a picture in the background. I mean, he has speaking
tons
scenes.
of lines. Yeah, like interactions with the main character, for heaven's sake. It's unreal. But
I wonder if it's one of those things where he sued to get his name taken out of the credits. I don't know. Maybe that was the legal issue.
Well, if you do roll down enough in the IMDb credits, he's eventually listed, towards the let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 from the bottom. I don't know why. As far as I'm concerned, if you're the villain, you're in the top 4 members of the cast usually.
Yeah.
So strange. But this movie confounded me in so many ways. Let's count them out here. Biggest thing, I love he goes around. He's this big Puritan and everything, but he is wearing leather pants, which I thought was a fun addition.
Yeah. Just because you're a little bit Puritan can't mean you don't rock out to Motley Crue.
Well, I think more than anything, it keeps you pure because you can't, in a fit of lust, you're not going to be ripping off a pair of leather pants. You got to that's a struggle.
All I can think of is that episode of Friends when Ross had the leather pants. I wonder if that's what Purefoy had to go
throw
through.
A little talc down in there, try to help yourself shimmy on out of those bad boys. I don't know, but it just seems like bad news. And you can see, when he takes his shirt off, he's got all the kind of crap just carved into him, so he hasn't led a fun life.
Yeah, tons of tattoos on him. I guess that's because he starts out as a pirate, I think is what he's doing at the beginning. Because I do got to say, there's a lot I genuinely enjoyed about this movie. I'm not lying. I enjoyed just some of the imagery. I enjoyed just kind of watching it because you don't really have to follow the story because the story's kind of confusing a little bit.
Like
he starts out as a pirate, then he turns into something else, and then he turns into a Puritan, and then he turns back into a mercenary. I feel like they skipped a few connections to the dots, but I don't care because I feel like even if they had told the story very, very clear, it's probably not that great of a story, but it's got some cool visuals, and that's why you watch something like this, right? Like none of the Conan movies have a great story. I don't know that Robert Howard really was a superb storyteller. He just had really high concept character creations that people like to read about. I mean, it was Pulp Fiction. It wasn't high art when he was writing it.
Yeah. Let's see. What else do I got here? I go, there's more particulate in the air in this movie than, dare I say, any movie ever in history.
You see a lot of particulate?
There's so much between like snow and ash and fog and all of this stuff. The air is filled with stuff all the time.
Seems like it's raining a lot too in this.
Yeah,
one.
there's always something going on, and like I got a note about it a little bit later, but I just watched it, just going, this has got to be a pain to shoot on every single day.
Yeah,
we do have a flashback to a young version of Solomon Kane here, and I gotta say, the young Solomon Kane, don't know why, reminded me of Bruce.
Oh, well, thank you, man.
Just like this kind
of... A lot of people said that I look like 16th century nobility.
I don't know, he just seemed to have like this wide-eyed child face to go like, oh, all these bad things are happening? I don't get it.
He did refuse to join the Anglican Church. You know, that's one thing we had in common as a kid.
Oh yeah, okay. So I said this. These are all the notes I wrote down because I had to do something because more or less I was very bored during this, and if I'm bored during a movie, I got to start writing down some notes or it's nap time. So I wrote down. We talked about this movie. We talked about this movie before I knew what it was. And I joked about it before. But why the buckles? Why the buckles on the hats? And we get one here, and it's kind of awesome. I won't lie to you. It's kind of stupid.
Yeah.
And you're looking at it, and
it's the best hat buckle I've ever seen.
And you're kind of like, yeah, but it's kind of dope, though.
I kind of think, like, I never thought I would wear a Pilgrim hat. I kind of would wear that hat.
He kind of pulls it off. As dumb and stupid of a look as it is, he kind of rocks it. Like, it's kind of a, like a Puritan version of The Undertaker.
Oh, man. Here's one. I just searched real quick on the internet. I said, why do Pilgrim hats have buckles? And it says, Pilgrims were all about the buckles. They left England so they could worship their buckle god, Bucklore.
Oh, that makes sense. It all adds up.
Yeah. But that is the slickest looking Pilgrim hat I've ever seen. It's like a leather hat with a nice brass belt buckle on the front of it. And he only wears it just enough to like comply with the fact that, in Howard's books and in all the comics, he is a Puritan. So they have to give you a couple of scenes, probably mainly for the movie poster and the trailers where he's in that Pilgrim hat. But really, honestly, like 85% of the movie, he doesn't have the hat with the buckle, does he?
No, and I think you're right. I think that's the best route for them to go, because if he was wearing it the whole time, eventually you would you wouldn't stop looking at the buckle, right? Because it's the central object. It's there all the time.
The buckle draws the eye. Maybe they did that to draw attention away from their. Maybe they weren't proud of their guts, after all that Thanksgiving food, and the buckle drew your attention away from their pot bellies or something.
Yeah, just focus on the buckle, please. We'd really appreciate that. It makes us all good. We saw some kids in this, and I love it when kids are so dirty they look like they have mustaches. I don't know why, but I think it's hilarious. And there were some of those kids that were so poor looking in here, it looked like they had mustaches, and I couldn't stop laughing.
And as a parent of multiple children, I can tell you on certain days, it only takes about 4 hours from bath time to inexplicably faces so filthy they look like they have a little mustache. It's like my youngest, he looks like a little Hervé Villachez when he gets that mustache going, that fake mustache.
Dad, too bad, too bad.
I mean, he's 10 years old, so he's maybe a little bit taller than Hervé was, but you get the idea.
Yeah, he's just like, I'd be dunking on Hervé, Dad. Shut up.
Take him in a fist fight, I believe.
I think it's safe to assume that when you see a dude with a Prince Valiant haircut, that guy's going to be a jerk, right? Because we got one of those in this movie.
Nobody gets that haircut with good intentions.
I would just like you to get these bangs and make them as low as possible, and then have all this flowing crap in the back.
I think getting a haircut like that is just because you're really itching for a fight. You know what I mean? You got that haircut, you know the first thing that happens, somebody's going to comment on it, and you've got an excuse to stab them. So I think that somebody really itching for a fight gets that haircut, or else they're so like feared that they can pull it off.
Yeah, you got to have a lot of guts to have that. You're either going to fight somebody or you're at least willing to.
Either that or you got like a lot of bodyguards or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Prince Valiant was always itching for a fight, right?
I think so. I don't know what it was about this movie, but like, well, I think I do because most of it is filmed that looks like outside and all this other junk. But this movie is like 98% ADR, and like in a really bad way. To where you'll have like villains and stuff that are barely moving their mouths and full on sentences come out of them that like were clearly written later to, suss up some plot points or something.
It kind of made me think about like Italian cinema, like the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood type Italian cinema, where they would get the Italian actors to work with like Hollywood actors, and the Italian actors wouldn't even try to speak in English, and they put it in, but the American actor was speaking in English. So you see that obvious contrast between them. And I wondered, since a lot of this was filmed in Eastern Europe, if there wasn't a little spaghetti Western style acting going on where some of the non-native English speakers just were saying whatever words they were told to say. And then that's why the AVR doesn't match up.
I think, probably a combination of all those things, because it was just, there's so much of it that just has this little bit of a thing where it doesn't sound like that's what they're saying. It's just,
and
it's
on top of that,
off.
I mean, when you're filming entirely in rain, I would imagine it's kind of tough to get the boom mics out there.
No, you're not capturing that. You got scratch audio at best, and then you're trying to do it up. But if that's happening all of the time, constantly in your movie, unless you're got like a really crack ADR team on staff here, and at $40 million, I'd say you don't.
Yeah, that's going to say that's how they cut that extra $1 million out of the budget.
Get them out of there in the Eastern Bloc. They'll be able to put together your ADR for you, no problem. Now, how amazing! Like, okay, so you say that you like Purefoy and everything. I think he's fine, and there's a couple of scenes where I think he's actually good. But I could not help watching this movie go and think, how awesome would this flick be if Hugh Jackman was in this role?
Yeah, but once again, I feel like we just talked about this last week. How awesome would any movie be with Hugh Jackman in it? He's just one of those guys, man, especially it doesn't just have to be an action movie, but especially an action movie, you put him in it, he's going to be better than almost anybody else in those roles. But yeah, Hugh Jackman would absolutely make a great, in fact, Hugh Jackman would make such a great Solomon Kane that like kids would go around pretending they were Solomon Kane after a couple of
movies. People would be like, little kids would want to put on Pilgrim hats and go around and talk about how they're nonviolent.
Just before they stab you to death in the face.
Well, there's a second leg to that story,
Yeah. But you're right, man. Hugh Jackman would have been great. I think that Christopher Lambert might have been okay in 97. Definitely would not have been okay in 2007. So Purefoy was probably the best they could get with the money they had.
Yeah, and
he's not bad at it by any means.
And he does look a lot like him, though. That's the big thing. He looks a lot like Christopher Lambert in a lot of ways. So there's some times where you could fool yourself into thinking that it was actually him. Let's see. Is it too hip for The Room to have a dude from Slipknot be the villain in this movie? Was that odd? An odd choice, I thought.
Okay, I got to tell you one thing I loved about the villain. And I mean, this is like unintentionally funny. Like I chuckled out loud, but he's got like the leather face mask on. And then in the big final fight, when Solomon Kane reaches up and pulls off the mask, he looks exactly the same under the mask. Like that's like a joke on Mad TV or something. And it's in this movie and it's serious. And I got a good laugh out of that.
See, I can tell you what that was for more than likely, because it was like the scare after the scare. So there's a couple like little bits of history on this. In the original John Carpenter's Halloween, at the end here, Jamie Lee Curtis at one point, they're up at the top of the stairs, grabs the Shape's mask and pulls it off his face. And all it is underneath there is Nick Castle looking all like weirded out and stuff. But when people saw it, they saw something bizarre. They saw something crazy. They saw something scary, even though it was just this guy who would later go on to direct Dennis the Menace.
What a CV.
Well, yeah, exactly. What a line. But so there's that. So where you can pull a mask off and like, you know, whatever you thought was underneath it, you can put your own kind of spin on it and just be like and see what you want to see. Or I had this, I still have it. It's not in the best of shape, but it's a mask from Friday the 13th. It's a Jason Voorhees mask, and it's in two parts.
I'm liking this.
The first part goes about mid-chest around and then over the head completely. It's not just a hockey mask. So this is the big rubber face of Jason once his mask would be off, and then a hockey mask goes on top of that. So I was working at Best Buy at the time, and we had a costume contest 1 week, and so I was like, I'm going as Jason. I went to another employee whose name was Jason. I got his name badge. I put it on, and and I didn't say a single word all day. I just walked around, and I was hot as all hell in that thing. I had to go to the bathroom several times just to, drain a T-shirt, just wring it out in the sink. It was just terrible. Yeah. But I went there all the time, and grown men were scared of me, which was funny, in daylight, no less.
Nice.
When like a 40-year-old man sees me and just kind of goes, and runs away. But then there was one little kid who thought he was awesome. He thought he was so cool and that he wasn't scared of me. And so I'm wearing this mask, I'm walking up, and he's like, I'm not scared of you. And I pulled off the hockey mask to see this, horrible disfigured face that's underneath. And the way that the eyes are, you can't see my eyes in it, so you're just looking at the little, zombified eyes of Jason and everything. Scared this kid half to death. And that's what I figured this one was. It was like, we've got this mask. It looks like, again, it looks like a Leatherface / Slipknot mask. And you take it off, and it's exactly what's the same thing underneath. But I think that's what it is. It's just like, it's that second scare, like, oh, you don't scare me with this man. Oh, my God, he looks even worse underneath.
But to me, it was just so hilarious because they didn't even make him disfigured in a different direction. Like the scar on the right side of his face matched up to the stitches on the mask. It was just like hilarious to me. I don't know. I think it was a very unexpected laugh that I had in the climax of this movie. But the guy's wearing like dead human flesh over his face and this, like you say, perfectly Slipknot mask, pulls it off, and that's what he looks like underneath. And I kind of wonder, what was he accomplishing with that mask? Like, was he trying to hide his hideousness with something also hideous? Or was he trying to hide his identity? Nobody's going to recognize that mangled face.
Yeah, and it's like, and he's got a little Eugene in him as well. For our preacher fans, will know what I'm talking about.
Yes,
he's got a little bit of that. Eugene. He's got like a mutant Eugene going on there.
I think that's a great comparison.
And but okay, spoilers for this movie. You don't care. It turns out he's his brother.
Yes.
What?
Well, no, this makes sense. Can I walk us through like just the big strokes in this movie? Because I think that being his brother kind of makes perfect sense, or else it's just like, why such a small world? Like Sean, who's not with us, would maybe be complaining about this. But it starts off, they're this family on the border of England and Scotland. They're a noble family. he is the second son, so his older brother stands to inherit the place, and he's already got that bad attitude. He's out there. We see him assaulting a female, and his younger brother tries to stand up to him, and he says, I'm going to be the Lord here someday, not you. And then they have some kind of a tiff, a little fight or something. He scars his brother in the face with a knife, and then I don't know if he stumbles and falls. To be honest, I don't remember how he goes off the ledge, but he falls off a ledge. And the younger brother thinks I just killed the heir to the noble house here. So I've got to leave home. And he runs off and becomes a pirate and fights some Ottomans somewhere. I don't know, I guess in Ottomania.
I love that show back in the 90s.
Ottomania, man, it's just been renewed this week on Hulu.
I watched the first episode.
Ottomaniacs. Anyway, so he runs off to be a pirate, leaves home in shame. His father didn't like him already because he refused to join the Church of England. His father's in so much despair, he calls in this healer to heal his brother who was mangled from the fall off the cliff. Well, that healer that he calls in turns out to be an evil wizard. That's Malachi. And Malachi turns his brother into some kind of zombie monster and starts turning other people in town to a zombie monster, locks the dad up. So when Solomon Kane goes back home because the priest that took him in after his brush with the devil fighting the Ottomans told him he had to go back home, he finds all this going on and fights his own brother. So it all kind of makes sense. The issue is I kind of had to read a plot summary to get some of those details because you don't necessarily pick it up in the movie.
Yeah, like I said, and I poke at the ADR, but at the same time, too, sometimes that can make things a little bit difficult to understand.
But this movie did get me on its side because that kind of opening sequence when we don't know what's going on. The only thing I know is there's no Pilgrim hat on Solomon Kane's head. He's just in there with swords and pistols, and he's fighting a bunch of what I thought were Saracens. I looked up and they were Ottomans, and I thought, well, this timeline doesn't work out. I don't think there was really any crusades going on in the year 1600 or so, but he was fighting the Ottoman Empire. But he goes in there, and we've got all these like demons inside the mirrors. I think that looks cool. I think the action is awesome, even though I don't quite understand that he's a pirate. I had to read the plot summary to understand he was a pirate at this point. I just thought he was fighting in a war or something, or a mercenary. That opening really worked pretty good for me because you don't have any story. You don't have much to know. You see these demons jumping out of mirrors. You see some good, early to, I'd say mid-Renaissance era fighting going on here. I just really enjoyed that whole opening. I like historical fantasy and historical fiction, and it got me on its side, so I was willing to forgive some of the silliness that came after it with that pretty cool opening, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, the movie has its moments, but they're few and far between for my particular taste. Now, any dude, though, that claims that he's going to be a man at peace, all you're doing at that point is really just counting down the seconds till he starts killing everybody, right?
Well, yeah, but that's one of my favorite tropes, too. I mean, that's the Saint of Killers. That's William Money from Unforgiven. That's, I don't know, there's other ones out there. It's a trope. When I was watching the movie, I had a list of like 3 examples, and I can't remember with the third one there, but it's that kind of trope that I actually enjoy. Yeah, I like that. How long is he going to be a preacher before he breaks loose and has to start killing people again? I like that twist.
Oh, yeah.
Game of Thrones even played with that twist with at least one major character, and I really enjoy it.
I wrote this one down. You'll do well not to blaspheme around a super religious dude who has a pit full of zombies.
Yeah, man, that... when I was watching that scene where he sees this priest and all of his flock, I don't know what you call them, parishioners, they've all been turned into ghouls, is what I saw the plot description. Instead of zombies, it called them ghouls. And when he's fighting with them and trying to get away because he throws him in to feed the ghouls, weird thing for a priest to do, but who am I to judge a Renaissance era priest? But I'm watching that and I'm thinking, you know what? I'm liking this better than 30 Days a Night because I know this movie's not going to get love. So I'm looking like what's stuff that we've watched that I like less than this so I can start to kind of put it on a tier level in my head. But when he's fighting the ghouls, I'm thinking I'm enjoying that better than 30 Days of Night and when they're fighting the vampires.
Oh, I think you're right. Yeah, this is, I mean, maybe not by a bunch, but at least with this, you could see this movie. That movie was egregiously dark from my memory.
But this is a guy, Solomon Kane. This was a prequel. This was basically this was movie one just to get us to where, like, this is all before Solomon Kane's adventures in comics or books or anything start. Like, This movie is telling us stuff that aren't adventures that were published. This is original stuff, hitting us to the Solomon Kane that we know from those other media. But I'm thinking, wow, this guy has major life-changing events like every 3 years or even quicker, because it goes from like he refuses to join the Church of England, so his dad doesn't like him. His brother dies, and he goes from being British nobility to being a pirate fighting against the Turks or the Ottomans. And then from there, because some demon says you're going to go, Satan has your soul for all the people you've killed as a pirate. So he goes from there to being like, the Saint of Killers, where he's the killer who swears not to take up a weapon again. And then he goes from that to like this Puritan family helps him out. And he suddenly, the guy who refused to join the Church of England is all too happy to become a Puritan, but also Puritans are pacifists. So he's keeping that pacifist thing going. And the little girl, Sarah Crawthorne, I think is her name. She gets kidnapped by the just sort of non-specific bandits. I remember the first time they show up, I'm kind of wondering, like, who are these guys? Are they monsters? Are they like orc types? Because we kind of seen some of the other creatures in here. And they're just non-specific bandits, but then they get kind of turned into creatures by Malachi before he meets them again. But now he's got this weird double quest where he is sworn to be a Puritan at this point, but he's also sworn to save that little girl. And that's when he kind of becomes the Puritan Punisher.
The good old Puritan Punisher. One of the things I like that he did in this, that like it's on my bucket list. I don't know if this is something for you as well, but he holds a really good torch.
Okay.
I like those torches, the ones with the little thing on the end and stuff that look like that real proper torch. I want to carry one of those one day. That's on a bucket list for me for some reason.
I think that's actually something I would be into too.
Right?
But I can't think of a scenario where I would get to do that. I don't even know, like, do people make torches like that these days? I mean, now they're probably oil powered or something.
I think it's got to be something. Now, bonus points if you get to do like this one and be like in like some sort of cave or something. Ooh, big bonus points for like, kind of cave in a big giant torch. Yeah, sign me up for that.
I'll tell you something that used to bug me from movies like in the 70s and 80s, maybe even older ones, is like when they're in that cave, they just find a random stick and like wrap their shirt around it and light it, and it just goes up like a torch and burns for about 20 minutes.
Forever those
yes,
things
with no
go.
pitch or oil or anything on it.
Yeah, sometimes you're stretching a little credulity there, movie.
Maybe next time we're in the same town at the same time, I'll do some research so we can walk around with torches. That won't draw any strings.
Listen, I'm telling you right now, all I got to do is talk to my brother. He's probably already got all this worked out. He's like, what are you talking about? I got 3 of those. Y'all want to have some right now? Here you go.
We need to find us a cave because you don't want to like walk through the suburbs carrying a torch.
No, that'll
that'll get the wrong kind of
that's
attention.
No good there. Yeah, you got to go underground for that for that
or
sort
at least under a bridge or something. I mean, you don't want to be out in the open. But what did you think about the crucifixion scene?
Well, that was literally my next note. I said some movies drop a Jesus reference. This one literally nails its protagonist to the cross. Like, holy smokes.
Not to mention, I mean, which form of Christianity is he going to get behind as a major theme of this movie,
Yeah.
So we got him. Here's what bugged me when I saw that. Is like, have they never crucified anybody before? Don't they know you need like the railroad spikes with a little bit of a head on it, because they just put like the straight spike in his hand. It's super easy for him to pull his hands off.
Feels like they didn't think that through too well. And I know technically they tended to do it later because they wanted to kind of suffer for a little bit, but they also broke legs. That's why, that's how they kind of got you. It's like, you could hold yourself up there for a while, but eventually when they wanted you to die, they went ahead and broke your legs.
And, I think if I remember Sunday school properly, they even like shove a spear in your ribs.
That may have just been for Jesus.
Yeah, but
know.
if you got Solomon Kane, he's like number 2. It's like, boy, we haven't done this since Jesus. Yeah, but he looks tough. Let's do this guy.
Yeah, that Jesus guy came back and we stabbed him at least once. Let's get a couple more on this guy just for good measure. I think
honestly, if I were like involved in the making of this movie, which I wasn't, but I would have went for like the X-shaped crucifixion. I think that would have looked more cool from like an evil, mysterious, satanic Malachi would have been like the X-shaped instead of the cross shape.
Yeah, that's more of your Witcher kind of.
Yeah, that's what I think I would have went for, is a Witcher type of vibe.
That sort of thing. Yeah, I dig that. I wrote down, I bet everyone who worked in this movie had a film of filth on them for weeks after the show, because this movie was dirty. Everything in it was dirty. It's always raining. It's snowing. It's muddy. I just looked at this and go, I would not want to work here, especially with all the... There had to be a skull guy for this show. There's so many skulls.
Who's the skull guy?
There's so many skulls. There's like a skull that's used as a maraca at one point or something like that. There's so many skulls in this movie. It's just like, oh man, they must have had a sale.
And it's I feel like they couldn't quite afford orcs, so they had people in masks that kind of looked like orcs.
Yeah. The fire demon was okay. That was kind of neat. Didn't look too bad.
Is that the big demon at the end? That's the fire demon? Now, here is something I didn't quite understand, is how he defeated the fire demon.
Love. I don't know. That just seems to be the answer to all this crap, doesn't it?
Yeah, because I didn't quite, like, it looked like he started glowing himself, and then, like, maybe him and the fire demon both blew up. Like, everybody thought Solomon Kane was dead, but then he came back to life.
I guess it was like I kind of thought of it like He-Man. He just kind of summons the power down and then just like it's kind of like that.
That would be good, a Pilgrim version of He-Man.
I'd take it. Oh, and I liked how, again, this is kind of the the little early 2000s here and everything, and we actually light a guy on fire for like a really long good time. And it's not fake. I love that.
I read something about the stunt. Not only did they light him on fire, but like Purfoy messed up and like hit him on the wrong shoulder, and they had to the stuntman had to give him a hand signal to like hit him again or something. So even it was not only a practical effect, but one that went on a little bit longer than it was supposed to. And people that know anything about like setting a stuntman on fire, even though you're in the fireproof suit, the air gets so hot that you have to hold your breath the whole time you're in that suit. So somebody, stabs you in the wrong shoulder and you've got to hold your breath. That extra 10 or 15 seconds might not sound like a lot, but that's a lot when you think you're getting ready to get put out and breathe.
Yeah, that's when people go in fire suits and stuff like that, it's usually not from burns, it is from asphyxiation.
Yeah.
Usually.
That's why I could never be a flaming stuntman, because I just wouldn't want to hold my breath that long.
No, thank you. I don't want to be on fire. That just sounds like the worst of all the things, please.
Yeah.
Oh, and
you mean on purpose?
I did have this one last little thing here, and I don't know if you got to this point in the movie, but there is a little a post-credit sequence. The devil says, "No takebacks," and now he's in hell. The end.
That would have been a good end credit scene.
Would have been the best.
I told you this was supposed to be a trilogy, so this is like the prequel. Before any of the Robert E. Howard stories took place, before any of the comics took place. The next movie was going to basically be what happened during the era of the stories in most of the comics. He goes through North Africa, Europe and North Africa to chase down this killer or something like that. And then the third movie was going to be like what happens after Robert E. Howard stopped writing the character, when he actually gets on the Mayflower and makes it to America. And that third movie where he's actually a pilgrim in New England, I imagine he's going to be fighting like evil Potomac Indians or something. That just seems so crazy that I would have been willing to sit through another subpar movie just to get to that third one. And it breaks my heart that this trilogy probably won't get completed.
Probably. Well, it'd be amazing though. They went like kind of Fast and Furious style, and they were up to like the 9th movie. It's just like now he's in 1970s
Now
Los
it gets
Angeles.
good. But I really want to see Solomon Kane in America.
According to the box office and the budget of this thing, I think that's going to be a little bit doubtful on that one. But hey, here's the thing: crazier things have happened. We're about to have a Moon Knight television show, for crying out loud.
Give us a reboot, then. You know, the Solomon Kaniacs still have an appetite to be wedded. So if you don't want to make it a sequel, give us a reboot. But this all takes place about 18 years before the Mayflower sets sail. So just jump forward. It's getting close to where an appropriate amount of time has passed, where Purfoy will, like in real life, this was filmed in 2009. So 18 years after that'll be 2027. Give us Solomon Kane on the Mayflower in 2027, people.
There are a couple of times where, life just comes at you quick. James Purefoy has all of a sudden now in 2020, when you look at his picture on IMDb, it's like, oh, you look your age now. There we go.
I mean, because I can't think of a single vigilante Pilgrim movie ever. And, this is close because he's a Puritan, but he's not a pilgrim till he makes the pilgrimage. So
that's a good
would
point.
Just be kind of cool. I feel like American cinema needs one good bloodthirsty pilgrim.
Now, the closest that we've got is Thanksgiving.
And Mr. Boogedy.
And Mr. Boogedy as well. But we do have to address one final thing before the end of this here program, and that is how this movie relates back 1-to-1 with Sylvester Stallone. And even though Sean is not here today, we still have a prepared statement from him to you. Bruce, do you want to do that one? I can do it if you want, but
sure.
I think our
I'm
audience
happy to
would
do it.
prefer you do it.
Well, you probably don't know that Victor Hadida is the executive producer of Solomon Kane, and you probably don't know who Victor Hadida even is, which is fine. I didn't know until this week either. And since we both had no idea who Victor Hadida even was, we both totally and absolutely weren't aware that Victor Hadida was the executive producer of 6 Resident Evil movies. I don't know how many Resident Evil movies were made in total because I stopped caring about that franchise since Resident Evil Afterlife. I mean, who in the hell made the Executioner? And why do the zombies have tentacles? Yes, I get that it's far from the game, but these movies are supposed to explain the game more, make them more alive, really.
Hold on. I got to stop you right there real quick, Bruce, because I just have to mention this. Who wrote this? Because it came from him, but I don't buy this. That bit right there does not sound like his writing. I feel like somebody, I think he may have I don't know. I'm just saying.
A ghostwriter?
He may have a ghostwriter on this bad boy. That doesn't smack. I can't see him playing Resident Evil game to save his life. This sounds suspicious. Go ahead.
But since Afterlife, if they don't care, then neither do I. And before you start thinking that all Victor Hadida produces are amazing and thought-provoking movies like every Resident Evil movie up to Afterlife, let me tell you something else both of us didn't know about Victor Hadida. He was the executive producer of Good Night and Good Luck, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. A wonderful movie. It's both beautifully shot and a beautiful story, and is the prime example of what it's like when characters have both altruistic intentions and carry themselves with a style and elegance that I really wish I had. Victor Hadida was also the executive producer on Rambo: Last Blood, which sounds like the title to the Mad Magazine parody of the first Rambo. But it turns out there wasn't a Mad Magazine parody to the first Rambo, which I think we can all agree seems like a Moses opportunity for Mad Magazine. However, there is a parody to the sequel, and it's called Dumbo, More Blood Part 2. And there you have it, HMPers and dinglingers. This week's Stallone connection is a guy who made a lot of money making Resident Evil movies, Victor Hadida. Adam, Bruce, this is the 331st episode of this bit, and still no word from Sylvester Stallone.
We'll get there one day. Well, let's get down to it. We have our own patented Robin rating system here at Hair Movie Podcast. If you'd like to check that out, head on over to reddit.com/r/Hair Movie Podcast. It's right there at the top. And join us, why don't you? I'll start with this one. For me, Solomon Kane, I'll say this for you right now. It is, as of this recording, It is on Amazon Prime via IMDb, but it said with ads, but I didn't see any ads. Did you see ads?
Oh, I saw ads.
Oh, I must have been lucky. Well, get yourself an Apple TV and not see the ads, because I didn't see a darn one of them, and I was kind of happy about that. But for me, this is a Stephanie Brown. It's not very good. It is. You understand why, this movie only made $20 million at the box office, because I don't know how you sell this to people. I especially don't know how you sell it to the American public. This is one of these things that I just don't understand why anybody would want to check it out. I mean, for example, and we still got so much of this going on today, where they're like, oh, we're going to make another, what's her name, Cleopatra movie or whatever. It's like, that the movie's bombed. Anytime anyone's tried to tell that story, it is done horrible business. Why would you continue to try to do something that does not work? And this is something that I don't know that works, or at least something that I don't believe anyone has a true hunger for. You can't sell this movie with, hey, it's a B.A. Pilgrim and he's going around, getting good on people. No, it's like, I'm sorry, unless you got something, like corny, what did they just called it Thanksgiving. That's what it was. The Eli Roth trailer in Grindhouse. That's the kind of.
I didn't watch that.
Oh, it's fantastic. But that's what you need. Just something that's stupid and silly. That's the kind of murderous Pilgrim I want to see. I don't know that this is that, but this also feels like a movie that your dad would like.
Yeah, maybe that's why I liked it a little bit better than you. I didn't like it. It wasn't great, but I was thinking about this movie as I was watching it. And, I grew up on Beastmaster and Crawl on TBS with commercials. And it was like the perfect kind of thing for me to have on a Saturday afternoon while I'm playing with toys or something. And it's also on at the same time. And the commercial breaks even added to that feeling. So it's kind of interesting. There's only one Solomon Kane. Like I said, it's the only bloodthirsty Puritan movie you're likely to find. And it's got good visuals. The story's kind of all over the place, but it's still kind of, there's a wee bit of fun there, especially if you made it like a sort of a tongue-in-cheek Thanksgiving tradition to watch it. So I'm going to give it a Damian Wayne. I think there's some people that'll say, yeah, it's not the best, but it's fun.
Yeah. And like we said, it's available, get yourself in the Thanksgiving holiday spirits and everything. It's on the Amazon for free there. So that's it, everybody. Like I said, next week we're going to be doing our Patreon Select, and you can be part of that either Tuesday or Wednesday. See, I knocked it back even a day, just in case. So give us enough time to do all that stuff. And but do keep an eye out, patreon.com/HMP, and we'll have that kind of little meetup and have some fun, guys. Bruce, in the meantime, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
I'm telling people to go check out Mandalorian 30 Questions. This season of The Mandalorian is great, and it just keeps staying there. All kinds of cool stuff going on. So check out The Mandalorian on Disney Plus and listen to Mandalorian 30 Questions.
Absolutely. It is a fantastic time there. And boy, that's going to be one of those that it is going to be over super quick. And I'm going to be like, oh, gosh, we need some more of that Mandalorian. Oh, come on now. But we'll do that very, very soon. So check it out, Mandalorian 30 Questions. And just before we go, quick reminder again, manscaped.com, and throw in the promo code HMP. Get yourself 20% off. We really appreciate that. And maybe they'll come on and do some more advertising on this show. That is it, everybody. Join us again next week when we're talking our HMP Patreon exclusive for the absent Sweet Chauncey Kovacs from the internet. Bruce Leslie. I'm Adam Portress. Stay super, everybody.
Goodbye, Marty and Evie.
I am a pilgrim and a stranger traveling through this wearisome land. I got a home in that yonder city. Good Lord. And it's not. Good Lordy, well, it's not made by hand. Well, I got a mother mother, a sister and a brother who have gone to that sweet home. That sweet home. I am determined to go and see them. Good Lord, Lordy, over on that other shore. I'm going down to the river of Jordan, just to bathe my weary soul. If I could touch but the hem of his garment, good Lord, when I know, Lordy, I know it would take me home. Take me
Sweet Chauncey Kovacs from the internet, Bruce Leslie. I'm Adam Portress. Stay super, everybody.